Hi, welcome to Straight Talk. I am your host, Egypt McKee. Listen, I'm talking about fear today. Fear grips everybody. There's no one who's exempt from it. And I think about the depths of what fear has done to so many in life. I want to ask you a question. Before I even really get kicked off today, I really have to wonder, if you were to sit down right now, get out a pen and paper and write down your list of top 10 fears in life. You know the crazy ones I'm talking about, right? Like, I don't want to be eaten by a shark. I don't want to get hit by a locomotive. I don't want to burn to death. I don't want to drown, all right? So we go through this whole list of our fears. And then there are some fears on the relationship side, too. I don't want my boyfriend or girlfriend to cheat on me again. I don't, want to go to jail. I don't, you can go through all the I don'ts, right? And that list would grow in exponential size depending upon the amount of fear that you currently carry. Now, this is not something you normally think about, nor do I, for that fact. But let's be honest with ourselves for a second here. Fear grips even the greatest. But it's not so much about the fear or the amount of fear or what you do with it, but what I want to do is I want to talk to you about specific types of fear. I think about, the phenomena sweeping the land today. We call it bullying or the bully. And there are multiple aspects of the bully, but yet it's kind of interesting, say 20, 30 years ago, they didn't really call that bullying. There was no national campaign to address so-called bullying. And so-called is the proverbial tag that I apply to it, because not every bully is really a bully. They're operating more out of a fear and a misunderstanding about who they are and who they're not, and certainly learning to adjust to those around them in a way that they can control and dominate. So I want to talk to you about physical fear. I want to talk about verbal fear. And we're going to talk today about social and relationship-based fear. Now, there's all kinds of fears that kind of stir up the human soul and kind of put us in a position that cause us to be rendered useless. Quite frankly, pathetic. Now, I don't know about you, but I got to tell you, I've experienced a lot of fear in my life. Some of it healthy, a lot of it unhealthy. But I got to tell you, you can watch a lot of the pundits, a lot of the New York Times best-selling authors with their television talk shows that, sit around with their, PhDs and all of their licensure in certain credentialed areas. And really, I want to be very clear. I am in no way speaking derogatively or disparaging in that regard. But I'll tell you, we search for the answers to life in a lot of the wrong places. A lot of them actually feel very comfortable. But I got to tell you, fear from the aspect of what it is and where it comes from, we never really look at the end result. And that is, what is the upside of fear? What is the point, the end game of fear? And that is really to destroy the host. That's kind of crazy if I were to have a guest on my show that wanted to absolutely destroy me. That would be one of the worst guests to ever invite into my life. But I got to tell you about a guest who's a personal friend of mine, a very close friend of mine, a well-respected and honored friend. His name is Steve Cornett, spoken word poet. I remember he and I first met years ago, and, I thought about where he came from in his life and where he is today. I tell you what, Steve has wrote some poems that he wants to share with you, not just on the subject matter of fear, but life itself. I want you to listen very closely as Steve's in studio with me now. I want to welcome Steve Cornett.
Hey, before I start, I just want to give a shout out to Egypt McKee, who is a dear friend of mine, who helped lead me out of fear. I was so afraid of life, I didn't want to go outside to check the mail. I didn't even want to look in the mirror. But Egypt introduced me to fear's antidote, which is love, the love of God. So I just want to share with you a poem that was inspired by what God has done in my life. With so many things that worry us, I just pray to hear about his glorious fight for us. Christ cried for us, died for us. Yes, the scandalous and the murderous and adulterous So in him I trust. Come set us free. Yes, through belief, no more captivity. And that captivates the good in me. I'm a rebel to today's society. Please don't perspire me. This is just how God wired me. I'm tired, see, of living incorrect. Only time I feel like I'm a man is when I'm erect. Such a disrespect to our Heavenly Father. He created us for so much more, yet we hardly even bother to get to know our purpose here. That's why I live for Christ, to make it clear. His sacrifice paid the price so we could live tonight without the fear of our actions' aftermath, bringing down God's wrath because he forgives our past. Think about that. Now let's do the math. Christ's resurrection is our protection, so let's start reflecting his righteous path. Give him praise to the Lord and his eternal match, being a light in this dark till we turn back to ash. Amen.
First of all, thank you, Steve. I can't tell you how much my heart has changed as a result of where I have personally seen your journey transpire from one to the next. But the beauty is, you're not done yet, man. And I believe in you. I've always believed in you. And I hope someone out there, as you're listening, many of you in your 20s and your 30s, and you just needed somebody to be straight up with you. Well, that's the name of the show, Straight Talk. Because what I want to do is talk to you straight and plainly about things. Sometimes that just seems a little bit abusive. You know, I found out this reality in my life that came to bear real quick. I found out that I'm really not as bad as I thought I was. I'm actually a lot worse. You see, that's the problem, is that I actually had this unhealthy vibe about myself, about how great I am and how cool I am. And if I could just be cool, and if I could just work hard enough and make enough money and acquire enough toys, the big house, the cool cars, the nice clothes, the great friends, everyone's got a 24 karat gold smile. Everyone's walking around in their cool smoothie in one hand and their yoga pants in the other. And everyone's trying to get their beach bodies going on and have other people affirm them. You know what? Life is like this big, fat carousel. Some of you are riding on a donkey. Other of you is riding on that little horse or the little kangaroo that's bobbing up and down, listening to the music, lullabied to sleep about all the things that really matter in life. And yet, here we come back to the place of fear. We found ourselves running into the corner, sucking our thumbs. Even as adult men and husbands and adult women and wives and young adults in college and career or the military or wherever your vocation takes you, you've just been running. And somehow you don't even know what you're running from. It's just the idea of fear drives your fear. As crazy as that sounds. Well, see, that's why we're here today. And I want to introduce to you my special guest. I'm very honored to have her on board here today with us. She is the founder of Fearless Daughters. Her name is Brittany Salisbury, and I've had the honor and privilege of being able to do work in several different aspects over the last couple of years with Brittany, and she's got an incredible story to tell, so much so that we made this a part 1 and a part 2. So you'll want to not only stay tuned for today's episode, but tune in next week as well and join us for part 2 as we conclude out this massive topic of fear in the bully. Welcome, Brittany.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be with you, Egypt.
Well, you know what, Brittany, I always talk about, you bring out this crazy man in me. Every time I get around you, just want to have a good time. We get to know people. We really get to find out what they're really all about and what makes them tick. And, I want to start with you. Before we even get into Fearless Daughters, let's kind of set that aside for a second because, our viewing audience has not heard from you before. And I want you to really connect with them. So let's just start with you. Give me the idea of Brittany. Like, really, tell me about you.
Well, there's so many facets to me, Egypt. I wear many hats, but I'll start off with I do have a degree in communication and broadcast journalism. I'm really proud about that because I'm the first in my family on both sides to get a degree, so that's something I'm very, very proud of.
And congratulations to that. I'm telling you, massive accomplishment. And, listen up, young world, because this is the kind of stuff that'll change your life.
Yeah, and with that, I started going into sports journalism, had an opportunity to interview and meet a lot of college and pro athletes. here in LA, and that was a huge blessing. And then
Wow.
I moved into faith-based journalism, which is called like Christian media, and now I co-host a Christian radio show. And basically with that outlet, I'm able to interview Christian celebrities, major Christian artists, cover big award shows like BET Celebration of Gospel. So with that, I also do fill-in hosting here and there for International Christian Network show, which is called JCTV, also known as Juice TV now, which is where we met.
Absolutely.
Right? You remember?
You know that's right. Absolutely.
And then I do another job. Like I said, I do many hats. I'm a motivational speaker for high schools and middle schools. We basically just do a tour. We do about 30 minutes of motivational speaking and then 30 minutes of a concert. And so the artists come out and they just inspire them and they encourage them, and it's just a full-on show, and it's amazing.
Well, you know what, Brittany, you're a girl after my own heart, because I tell you, I have such a drive and a motor for young people and young adults. And I always talk about that black hole demographic of roughly 18 to 30, 18 to 33, but it's all of those years leading up to that now, right? So we talk about that middle school, high school age, and there's so much craziness going on with their in that age frame and that span of life. It's like turning on a pivot, because you know, this theme that we're talking about today is so massive. You and I could not possibly do due diligence or do justice to the depths that I know both of us would like to really talk about. But fear, I just want to look at three aspects, because this was so big. You and I are doing a part 1 and part 2 of this, so we encourage our viewing audience to come back, and I really want you to hear more from Brittany, and I'll promise to back out of that, but I wanted to set the stage a little bit. There's the physical aspect of fear and how it presents itself in life. There's the, you know, the social aspect of that as well. And then there's this whole verbal aspect of how we use communication, both verbal, meaning out of our mouths, and then nonverbal, and that's how we act and respond to one another. Brittany, let's kind of start shifting gears a little bit to kind of, you know, dive into that area a little bit. Fearless Daughters. Where was the inception of that? Where was that born out of for you to put together a collective group of women on a mission to combat the delivery of fear?
Really, it was honestly just birthed out of my brokenness. I've struggled with fear my whole entire life. And it started from being raised in a very fear-based home. My dad dealt with a lot of anger and rage and manipulation and control and domination. There was a lot of physical abuse. I experienced minor physical abuse, but I would say mostly I witnessed the physical abuse between him and my mother, and that also plays a big, you know, part of damaging someone. The most I would say that I was physically abused is when I was around 6 or 7. My dad gave me 2 black eyes. And then shortly I was into a shelter, and so you can just imagine that type of, you know, pain that brings, and just wounds that brings. And so with all that, those aspects of my dad and how he carried himself in the home, you always felt unsafe, and, you know, walking on eggshells, and made you just fear, you know, everything. And I would fear my dad. I would fear confronting him. I never wanted to say anything to him, so I felt like my dad took away my voice. I felt mute for the majority of my life, because if you stood up to him, you know, you were probably expecting some retaliation, so it was best to just not say anything and suppress. And unfortunately, the fear just transferred to every area of my life, and I began, you know, becoming fearing of just everything, you know, schools, school teachers, co-workers, fearing if I'm going to even, you know, do well in my job or career, fear if I'll ever get married. And I know there's a lot of people out there that can just relate to that, you know.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
You know, my dad, unfortunately, you know, he used these methods to install fear, which other people do too. Is I'm going to use verbal fear, I'm going to use physical fear to get you to in a place that I can control you and manipulate you.
And you know what, Brittany, you said something, and as I'm listening here, I wish we had an all-day marathon to really start filleting this like we probably should, or if we could. But I'm remembering an age-old law that maybe some of you out there watching today really understand, and that's this idea that he who yells the loudest is the rightest. And you know, it's kind of like, you know, when you start an argument, Brittany, and it starts at a certain level. You know, maybe that's level 2 on the speakers, and then it comes up to 3, and then it goes to 5.5, and then it goes to 10 until it's this out of control rage, right? And it's in that rage that we actually start to forget who we are, and we either do things positive or negative to either protect ourselves, self-preservation, or to inflict punishment on the person oppressing us, right?
Yeah.
So. And then at that point, we don't really care anymore. We don't care if what we're doing carries punishment to throw us in jail or end our life or the lives of others. We just want to be right, or we want to be at peace, or we want to be something that we're not at that moment. So I want you to hold that thought, Brittany, because we're going to continue this conversation here in just a bit. But before we do so, I want to transition and encourage you, as all of our viewing audiences, first of all, to take this topic of fear very seriously. Why? Because it affects you as it does every single soul on this planet. And the things that we're talking about today, we hope and pray that will be an encouragement to you, and not only today, but the days to come. But as such, I've got a movie trailer called Mom's Night Out. Movie out there now. I want you to get out there and take a look at this and you know, get to a place where you can unravel some of your fears and really look at the dynamics of family and a mom who wants to just get away from all the madness just to have a night out.
Mom, Beck's playing in the toilet again. Surprise! We made you ate. Where's sugar?
Oh, no. He's gonna put that in his mouth and become one of the 400 estimated people that die from acute salmonella. Not put that finger in your...
Oh, you having a rough morning?
Tell me it's all gonna be okay.
It's all gonna be okay. Just give it 5 years. Year 7 or 5.
You have to choose to do something for yourself.
I planned this mom's night thing
what?
for Saturday.
You planned a mom's night?
Yes, sister.
What's the worst thing that can happen?
They could get maimed. I could lose both children. It's getting hot in here. Wow, you look amazing.
Ladies, tonight is our night, and we look good.
I cannot find a reservation.
I just want to sit down with my friends without 3 little people clawing all over me.
I'm getting a little angry, and it's doing something ugly to your face.
Joey, you're supposed to be watching our baby. Who has him?
Bones.
He's at the tattoo parlor.
Who would bring a baby to a tattoo parlor? That's dumb.
I know.
That is real dumb.
Okay, so here's the plan. We take them inside, get their hands stamped, and they can't get out. Like Shawshank Redemption.
Bones, my baby.
I called Caprice, and Caprice said she'd take him. Did I know you from somewhere?
My husband's the pastor of First Baptist.
Lollapalooza.
No.
Ozfest?
Never.
Live Aid.
Please stop.
I had tonight playing out differently in my mind.
We got a baby to find.
Don't freak out. Half these guys are from First Baptist Church. The other half are from the biker gang known as the Skulls. The biker gang known as the Skulls.
Allie, it's me. Just wanted to let you know that everything's going great here. We're all good. We're gonna take a little trip to the hospital. Searing pain! Oh.
Life is about finding the meaning and the joy and the purpose in all the chaos.
Hon, your job.
It's hard, I know.
Important. That's what I was gonna say.
I love to do the most of everybody. I'm a mess, but I'm a beautiful mess. I'm his masterpiece, and that's enough. That's my van! Get the van, the van! I don't want to die! This has been the worst night ever. I honestly don't know how it could get any worse.
Stand down.
How dare you? My husband is pastor.
They just came in here and started. That was an accident.
And welcome back. I'm here with Brittany Salisbury, founder of Fearless Daughters. And Brittany, I tell you, you know, when I think about your charter of what you're doing in Fearless Daughters, share with our viewing audience exactly what is Fearless Daughters and why you exist.
Yeah, so the purpose is to equip young women, really of all ages, to overcome fear, and we do it in a practical way and in a spiritual way. We have different resources that you can go on our website, people's testimonies, just a lot of helpful links that will get you to really start to tackle that. And then also we have a snapback line that is just seen a lot of favor. Girls just love it. They tell me that they want the Fearless Daughter snapbacks because it makes them feel fearless. It makes them feel like they can be bold in Christ. And also some of them just struggle with fear, and it's just inspirational for them to wear it. And it also opens the doors for them to share, you know, a conversation with someone as they're walking around in the hat, you know, about their testimony and about, you know, how they overcame fear and just about their faith. So that's the ministry, and it's growing. I literally only started a year ago, and so it's just seeing so much growth in such a short amount of time. It's like my baby, you know.
Absolutely. I know that feeling, and I got to tell you, you know, first of all, I think excited doesn't really quite describe my joy for you personally, as a friend, as a sister, and that's how I see you. And you're on the front line of an assault. You are talking about an area where we have a culture today where there's a lot of violence that's breaking out, and there is an unasked question about the state of mental health in this country, in the world for that fact. There's a question about the unchecked fear, which is predicating itself and exacerbating itself through violence, through divorce, through suicide, through depression, through alcoholism. The list goes on and on and on, right? And you're saying that Fearless Daughters does not stop at just being an educational arm, but to really be a corralling arm for recovery, for inspiration, and for hope. And it's really interesting that we don't really subscribe to Uninspired magazine, right? You would never want to, like, sign me up for that. I want to have a subscription to Uninspired magazine because I want to be a total bummed out, you know, loser in my life. Who asked for that? Tell us about some of these best case, worst case scenarios. I mean, I know you're getting young women from really all over the spectrum in terms of relationship destruction to potentially addiction to rape or date rape or assaults of all different kinds. I mean, what are you seeing the girls? Is there a common denominator that you say, are girls running from something, or do you find them running to Fearless Daughters for something?
I mean, most of the girls that I find, they are trapped in some kind of addiction, some kind of destructive lifestyle. Really struggling with fear because most of the things that they endure just happens to just birth, you know, fear, and then they just fear everything like I did. And so I have so much compassion on them because I once was there, and I realized the stronghold that fear brings. You know, it's such a trap. You know, when you're struggling with fear, you feel like you can't get out of your comfort zone. There's no risk. You can't be bold. You can't be courageous.
And to that point, Brittany, I just want real quick, and to that point, and I'm going to ask you the obvious because I know your response will be very quick, and that's the issue of men being in a corralling position for females. What is your perspective? I mean, this is why I don't see men counselors being a trusted resource by these women, because oftentimes they're actually running from men, or men are the instigators of some of the controlling factors. I think you even stated that well. Your relationship with your father and your upbringing, that was a big part of your imprint. And I'm certain that, although I will not put words in your mouth, that skewed your view on men, or your ability to trust them and to be guided by them and to feel protected by them, because that was a marred part of your own life, as with my own as well.
Yeah, you know, unfortunately, when you see and you're raised by someone who is like that, dominating, controlling, you know, all that stuff, you know, you just fear all men who are like that. And it was a common theme in my life where it was like I was always being put under a coworker or had a school teacher who was dominating and controlling, and it just always put me in a place of just, I suppressed it, I was passive, I was weak, and I allowed mistreatment. See, when you're fearful, you won't speak up for yourself. You become voiceless, and
and that's the path of least resistance right there we're talking about. You know what? If there's trouble there, I'm going over there.
Right. You know, the whole flight or fight, right? You know, thing. And for me, it was just, you know, if I don't say anything, then, you know, that's the best way out. But really, it kills you inside, because inside you feel such a mess. You feel like you know, like I mentioned before, you're trapped. And yeah, it's such a destructive life pattern in your life. And I mean, what were you saying? Sorry. About. What were you asking again? I'm sorry, Egypt.
You know, overall, what I'm really trying to get at is the position of men being a part of the solution. Yes. Their solution is not one of a nurturing counseling perspective, oftentimes, because men are not the trusted resource for women who are hurt. And vice versa. I think the same could be said about young boys who grow up to be young adult men, in having an abusive or a domineering or dominatrix type of mother or female influence that was oppressive. I think the same could be said on both sides, and I think we've seen that to some degree. Here's what I want to do, Brittany, because we're running so quickly on time here. Tell our viewing audience the best ways to get in touch with you, because we want to be able to have them connect with you, follow you, and be able to continue to ask you questions in the days to come.
Yeah, it's really simple. If you Google me, I'm everywhere, and I'm just joking, but BrittanySalisbury.com or fearlessdaughters.com, and all my information, social media links, how to contact me. Maybe you need, you know, some kind of guidance or wisdom, and we would love to just reach out to you and just point you in the right direction, and even maybe even pray for you too. So.
Well, I really appreciate that. First of all, thank you, Brittany. This is only part one of part two, but thank you for being with me. We're going to finish up that second part, and I want to make sure you tune in and make sure you join us again. Brittany, thank you for being here and being my special guest today.
Thank you.
So listen, I dare you to do the obvious, and that's to connect with us here at Straight Talk. We exist because we believe in you. You can do that by Facebook. That's one of the most popular places to connect with us. Post your comments, hashtag Straight Talk with Egypt, and that's at facebook.com/Egypt Speaks. Also on Instagram at instagram.com/Egypt Speaks, and of course our YouTube channel as well /Egypt Speaks, and Twitter. Catch up with our tweets, follow us, and we'll follow you and stay connected with you. Listen, this area of fear is not done yet. I'm going to be back with Brittany. I want you to tune in and make sure you listen very closely to what she's got to say. You know what? I am the above average Egypt McKee. I'm here to be an encouragement to you, and everyone needs encouragement. See you next time.